All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Ask Garrett series. This is a series where I answer questions from audience members and try to give my advice or opinions and perspectives on certain situations or questions that they may have for me. So I'm gonna do my best to, like I said, try to give the best advice I can to anybody going through these situations or anything like that. As always, if you would like me to answer any of your questions, you can email me at therealaskgarrett@gmail.com. Like I said, you can let me know what you want me to talk about. Let me know anything you want to hear my opinions on. So let's get right into it. This one's going to be a little bit different. I know last episode I mainly focused on the dating questions people have for me, but I want to kind of take a turn to finance now. A lot of people have been asking me about finance advice, especially going through with what I've gone through this past year. I've hit a lot of financial milestones, and I'm really excited about that. And I want to kind of share some of the things that I would recommend for people who are trying to take that next step in their life. So, first question I have here it says, "What's the best way to start budgeting if you've never done it before?" Well, the best way to start budgeting I can think of is to just first write out all of your expenses for the month. If you write out your expenses and you put it on paper, you have something tangible to look at, then you can kind of see, okay, this is where my money's going. So, first thing you want to look at how much money you have coming in every month. You want to look at your bills. Now, the one thing I try to do, I try to eliminate as many unnecessary bills as I can. Um, and that may include, I mean, that looks different for everybody, but that may include decreasing some of these subscription plans you have. Like I know one of the things that I did, I went through all my streaming subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, whatever, and I may have been paying for the premium, the top tier plan. But for Netflix, I know specifically they increased my bill to like almost $30 a month. So I said, okay, well, I don't want to pay that, but I also don't want to get rid of Netflix because there are things I watch on there. So I decreased all the way to the lowest plan. So my bill went from almost $30 a month to about $8 a month. So, doing little things like that because it may not seem like a lot, but if you go through all your bills and you see that there's any way that you can decrease what you're paying, even if it's just $10, $20 here and there, all that adds up. So over time, you'll start having that extra money in your pockets because you're not paying for things you didn't necessarily need. On top of decreasing the bills, you also want to see if there's any way you can eliminate any bills. So if there are things that you can pay off early just to not have to keep giving them money every month, anything you can cancel completely. I know I use the Affirm service a lot when I buy things on like Amazon or Best Buy, whatever. Now Affirm is really helpful, especially if you don't have the money to buy something all at once, or if you just don't want to spend the money, to buy something all at once, then you can make those payments. But I notice, especially when you have services like Affirm that don't penalize you for paying things off early, because interest accrues on each one of those payments. So if you can get rid of some of those bills, just pay it off, so that way you can free up some money every month. That'll be good. So my like I said, main thing is when you want to budget, you just want to try to decrease your monthly expenses as much as you can, and then when you free up some of that money, then you want to, I would say, put half of that aside, half of that free money. You want to put that aside. I mean, if not all, I recommend half because obviously, there are things that you may want to do, but put half of that aside and you should be fine. All right. So, so yeah, that's that. So next question I have here is, how much of your income should you aim to save each month, and how do you make that realistic? Well, um, that changes for everybody. Obviously, you wanna. It's been it's been said that you want to save at least, try to save at least a third of your income every month. Now, that obviously isn't doable for everybody, but I'm a firm believer in living below your means. And of course, that's easier said than done, especially with the cost of living being the way it is. But I'll take it back to biblical terms for all my religious folk out there. I know the story of Joseph. There was a passage in the Bible when Joseph was the king of dreams. Like, he could interpret dreams for people, and one of the stories in there was talking about how, I guess, the Pharaoh had a dream that it was going to be a 7 year time of abundance and a 7 year time of drought. So what Joseph did, to help the Pharaoh, he said, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but he had the Pharaoh take 1/3 of all of the harvest during that 7 years, and they put that, third in like a safe. So for 7 years, everything that they harvested, they took a third, kept it safe. Then when it came for the 7 years of drought, or the 7 years of famine, they had a third of all of their abundance ready to go. So they didn't starve. They didn't have too many hardships during that 7 years because they planned and prepared. So I would say a third of your income should try to be saved. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say I do that, because once again, I mean, everybody's life is different. Um, I'm the breadwinner in my home. I have a wife and a son, and they both are at home. So there are a lot of things that I have to pay for, and I don't make enough money for me to save a whole third and put it in an account, because I need that money. You know what I mean? But I would say, yeah, try to save a third if you can. So if you find that you aren't able to save a third, then going back to what I said before about trying to see where you can decrease your bills to free up some of that extra money. Um, that'll help, because I mean, at the end of the day, there are going to be emergencies, and there are going to be times where you need your money. Now, I will say, for the people that can't afford to save a full third of their income, I mean, just save whatever you can. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a job where I get tips sometimes. And what I do, I put all my tip money in a savings account. So that's money that I didn't have to work for. I wasn't planning on getting. So whatever money I get, however big or small it is, I put it all in a savings account. So I'm using that right now as my, like, emergency fund, so to speak. So whatever you can, really, I mean, whatever extra money you have, try saving now, while you don't need it, because when you do need it, you're gonna really wish you had it. So, the next question is about investing. So it says, what's your advice for someone who wants to start investing but doesn't know where to begin? Honestly, I'm actually in that same boat myself. I'm not a huge investor. I did have a few stocks a few years ago, but I ended up selling them all. But the best way I could recommend to start investing, if you don't know where to begin, is start looking at those services where you're able to buy, like, fractional stocks, fractional shares. I know a big one that I used a few years ago was Stash. the stash service. It allows you once again to buy pieces of a stock, so that way you have shares within multiple companies without spending the full price to own one stock in that company. So you can put a dollar, $5 into a stock, and you will own, $5 worth of that stock. Now, that's what I use. But I did read about this new company. It's new to me. I don't know if how new it actually is to the world, but it's another service called Webull. Webull is similar to Stash, where you're able to buy fractional stocks. Yeah, looking into getting into that. That to me is a good groundwork for dipping your toes in the stock market, trying to see exactly how it plays out. The good and the bad of it. So yeah, getting into those would probably be a good avenue for you. Um, next question, it says, are cryptocurrencies a good investment, or should beginners stick to more traditional options like stocks and bonds? Listen, I view cryptocurrencies as a highly volatile investment. Because I mean, with crypto being that it's, essentially like digital money, it is at the whim of the internet. It is at the mercy of technology. And um, if you invest in it, I feel you're taking a bigger risk with the crypto than you would the stocks and bonds. Stocks and bonds are, from what I know, a tried and true method. Obviously, there's risk in everything. That's an investment can go good or bad for you depending on what you're investing in, and however that market is at the time. But I feel cryptocurrencies are a bit too new to have any concrete evidence on the benefits of investing in it. Obviously, there are some cryptocurrencies that have made a lot of people very rich. But once again, it all depends on you. I wouldn't recommend that as being like a good investment, like a good safety net. But if you want to try it, like I said, there have been people that have gotten rich on it, so you can try your luck on that if you want. So next question. It says, what's the most effective way to pay off debt when you're juggling multiple loans or credit cards? Well, the most effective way I would say to pay off debt is to start small. I've read that it's something called a snowball effect, and I could be explaining this wrong. Like, once again, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. The snowball effect is when you start paying off your smallest debt first. When you start paying off your smallest debt, what that does is it gives you a sense of accomplishment. When you have one account paid off, then you're able to say, okay, I got that done. Let's work on the next account, and the next, and the next. And eventually you'll get to the point where you've eliminated all of your debt. And then that's when you'll experience that sense of financial freedom. So as far as having multiple loans and credit cards, obviously they accrue interest, and that rate could change depending on the card or the loan. So I would still focus on paying the minimum, at least pay the minimum payment each month. So that way interest doesn't accrue too much. And also you want to look at which account has the highest interest rate, because that's the account that you want to focus on as well. Because if you have, let's say you have two accounts, one account you owe $100, the other one you owe $100, but the first account has a 35% interest rate, the other account only has a 20% interest rate. So you want to kind of focus on that higher interest rate account first, because in the long run, the longer you keep that account open, the more money you're going to owe as opposed to the other account. So you want to once again look at all of your details, all of your financial details, know exactly which accounts do what. And once again, I would recommend starting with the smallest account you have first. And then once you eliminate all of the smaller accounts, then you want to look at your larger accounts, see once again who has the highest interest rate. Let's focus on getting that account out of here first, because that once again, that'll be more money you'll pay in the long run. So it says, next question, it says, should I focus on paying off my student loans quickly or save for other financial goals like buying a house? Me personally, it all depends on your student loans. I know when I recently bought my house a few months ago. I know when I bought my house at the time, my student loans were only like 3,500. That's because I went to a community college and I didn't finish. Um, so I didn't have that many student loans, so I wasn't really focused on paying off my loans first. Now I know that depending on how many loans, how much student loans you have, some banks will deny you for a mortgage. Luckily, once again, I didn't have that many that many student loans. So you want to look at what you have first. And I would say it all depends on your situation. Are you buying the house by yourself? Are you married? What's going on? Because if you're married, like me and my wife has a lot of student loans. So what ended up happening was I bought the house in my name. Of course, she's still on the deed, but I was the main one on the loan because her student loans being attached to the mortgage, as well as the fact that I'm the only one working. Once again, I don't make that much money to be able to support that debt to income ratio. So it was just easier for me to get the house myself, and that way she was able to not be included, and it'll be a much easier process. So I would say, if you can pay off your student loans, do so. But if you're able to handle your business without it, then by all means, because your student loans aren't going to go anywhere. Now, obviously, I mean, they do accrue interest, but it all depends on what your priorities are. If buying a house is more important to you right now, which it should be to a lot of people, buy your house first, and then once you have your house secured, then you can focus on paying off your student loans. Now once again, I'm not a financial guru. This is just All these are just my personal opinions and how I've handled situations in the past. Once again, I bought my house, I had student loans. I wasn't worried about it. So you just got to look at your situation and prioritize what do you think is more important. All right, so next question, it says, what's the best way to negotiate a higher salary without damaging relationships with your employer? See, I as far as negotiating a higher salary, I've never done that. And I find it amazing that there are people who have been successful doing that. I think it all depends on what kind of job you have. If you have a corporate job, I think it's easier to negotiate a higher salary if you have like a corporate job. But if you have like a manual labor type ish job, then it's like, you know, you negotiating higher salary, what I mean? But like I said, if it works for you, cool. But negotiating a higher salary, from what I've read, you want to kind of come with a valid reason why you negotiate, why you are requesting a higher salary. Like if you're 6 months into the job, you probably aren't gonna have too much leverage on why you deserve a higher salary. But you just want to kind of keep a track record of the things you've done, kind of build that professional portfolio, as far as, what value you bring to the company you work for. Now, as far as bringing that to your employer, if you want to do that without damaging a relationship with them, then you kind of want to present it in the way and say, okay, what what plan can we come up with to get me at this salary that I want? Kind of present it in a way where you're not you're not asking for the salary. You're trying to see you're trying to get them to tell you what you would need to do in order to get that salary. So if they lay out a plan, say, okay, well, if you want this amount, then you would need to do this and that, or you would need to accomplish this. Like I know with my job, they have these courses called NCTI courses, and what you do is you're able to get promotions based on how many courses you completed. So I completed, pretty much all the courses they have. I'm at the highest level in my current role right now. So I've kind of capped out at that higher salary. So if I wanted more salary, I would pretty much have to change positions and go to a whole different department, which I'll do that eventually one day, but for now I'm comfortable where I am. So the main thing, like I said, assess what value you bring to the company, and then once you understand, okay, this is what I'm able to do, this is how much I'm able to earn, then you can bring that to your employer and kind of negotiate that with them there. So once again, it all depends on what kind of job you have. So the next question we have here, it says, how can you create additional streams of income while still working a full-time job? Well, the main thing a lot of people are doing now, well, I wouldn't say the main thing, but what's become very popular now is creating content streaming. I know a lot of people use the internet as a, a vehicle to get additional income on the side, which is very profitable. A lot of people are doing it, and it seems to be working out for a lot of people. But another thing that you can do, try to start a business. Try to find something that you can create, something tangible that you can sell online. One of the things that I've started to do is 3D printing. This is one of the things I have here, 3D printing. I design different things, and I create different tools and little gadgets, cool things that people could use. So once again, finding that one thing that you could create, something that you enjoy, and trying to find a way to monetize that. I know, you have a lot of people doing hair on the side, different things like that, trying to get an extra income there. Now, another thing that could help produce additional income, obviously, is stocks, day trading. A lot of people have gotten into that. So just trying to see where the money is, trying to find, like, once again, something that you can sell, something that will bring value, finding something that brings value to other people's lives. Any people will pay top dollar if you can bring value to their lives. So that's what I would recommend. Once again, trying to sell something. Don't sell your booty. Don't. I'm not recommending that. But just once again, trying to create something that people could use, and something that you can sell. Next question, it says, what are the key things to consider before buying a home for the first time? Now, listen, once again, I just recently bought my house a few months back. So there were a lot of things in that process that I did not know, that I wasn't aware of, and it if I would have known ahead of time, it would have saved a lot of headache and heartache. But one of the things that I would say you definitely want to consider before buying a home. Now, I live in Florida, so we have a lot of what's called flood zones. So one thing that I definitely did not want to do was buy a home in a flood zone. And it's crazy because we just recently had two very powerful hurricanes here where I live. And 2 weeks before the first hurricane hit, is when I bought the house that I'm in now. And during the home buying process, or during the home search, the main house that I was looking at was in flood zone A. And flood zone A, for those you don't know, that's like the the first area that is gonna get flooded out if water comes in. So I was looking at that home, and it was nice. It was a beautiful home. It's actually bigger than what I'm in now, but the problem is, when we walked in, we saw that it had a little bit of water damage and things like that already from the previous owner. So that was, a big turnoff. But the main reason why we didn't buy the house is because me and my wife, we were in the backyard of the home just talking, and I just happened to look down. And when I looked down, I saw this weird rock. So I'm like, what's going on with that rock? So I turned to the side, and on the rock, it had engraved in the rock. It said Mother 2001, and it was like in the ground. So I'm like, bro, is there a dead body in the backyard? And what really, drove that thought home for me is because the house went up on the market in March of that year. March, it was on the market for 250,000. By May, it had decreased to 240,000, and then by July it had decreased to 219,000. So these people were trying to get rid of that house, and the only way that a seller is gonna decrease the price of a home by that much in that short amount of time is if they really just want to get rid of the house. They don't, at this point, they don't really care about getting fair market value, because something's wrong with that house. And more than likely, like I said, you got a dead body in the back. It's probably haunted, whatever the case may be. But yeah, anyway, so back to my original point. You want to consider the area that you're buying the home in, as far as, is this area prone to disasters? What's the crime rate in this area? Different things like that, especially if you have kids, a family. You want to consider all those things. The other thing you should consider before buying a home for the first time is your debt to income ratio, because when you're going through that underwriting process, that is a big thing that they're going to look at. I mean, they gave me a lot of hard time, dealing with my debts, making sure that I had different things paid off before they would approve me for the home. I had to spend a lot of money that I wasn't planning on spending at that time, but by the grace of God, I was able to get done what I needed to get done. And Another thing to consider before buying your home is knowing that you're going to have to go through that long underwriting process. Some people get through it quicker than others, but once again, if you're one that you have a lot of obligations to other people, different debts, taxes, they're going to look at all that. Their job, the underwriting team, their job is to pretty much create a timeline of your life through your finances. They don't really care about you. They care about what you spend, because at the end of the day, they want to make sure that you're going to be able to pay them back their money. So and just be prepared for a long underwriting process. Make sure that you're buying a house in the right area. Make sure that all your finances are in order. And as long as you have those things in mind, then you should be able to get through it like I did. So next question, it says, when does it make sense to lease a car versus buying one? Um, Me personally, I would never lease. The only the only way I would lease a car is if I just had that additional income to, never own, like, if you don't plan on let me say this. Leasing a car is fine if all you care about is having the latest and greatest. Because when you lease a car, you lease it for about 2 years, and then you can trade it in for a brand new one. That's fine. If you're somebody that cares about the aesthetics of having the nicest car or whatever like that, then yeah, leasing is probably going to be for you. But as far as buying a car, I'm a good I love owning things. As you can see, I mean, this is not all my collection here, but I have a lot of video games on disc. I have more over here, but I have a lot of disc video games because, having these game memberships and streaming games online, that's all fine, but I like ownership. So as far as cars go, um, I would highly recommend owning a car because if you buy a car, then you first of all the payments are going to be less than it would be leasing for the financing depending on how much you put down. Then you buy a car, your insurance is going to be less because you don't you aren't obligated to get comprehensive and collision coverage. If you're leasing a car, then you're going to have to get that. So once again, I mean, if you're just somebody that cares about the aesthetics of having the latest and greatest car, then leasing is going to be for you because it's easier to trade it in as far as rather than financing or buying. Because if you buy a car, then that's one big purchase. So if you wanted a newer car, you have to either trade that car in, or I'm sorry, no, you have to sell that car, then use that money to buy a new one. But anyway, I'm a big advocate for ownership, so I wouldn't recommend leasing. But if you just care about the looks, then yeah, that's for you. So that's all the questions I have so far as far as this episode goes. So I appreciate everybody for stopping in and hearing my takes on these things. So I'm gonna do more. Once again, if you have any questions you want me to answer about whatever topic you have, you can email me at therealaskgarrett@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to make sure I get to everybody. You all have a good day.